Hey everybody, CosmicMapping here! Yes, it is here! Now, as much as I would like to go into my reasons for why this took so long, I think you guys would rather we just go right into it. I'm sorry if your nation is not in this video. Don't worry, if you sent it before the deadline, it will be in the future videos. I did get a lot of people who submitted after the deadline, and it kind of made me feel bad that I wasn't able to accommodate them, but at the same time, guys, last season, for Season 1, I got about 26, I think maybe 26 or 25 submissions. I have well over 100 this time, so I have plenty of content to make a long and awesome season. So I hope this will be a good first episode. And like I said, if you submitted your nation, it will be covered even if it's not here. If you submitted multiple nations and I just did one or I didn't do any, they will show up. Do not worry. So without further ado, let's get into the show. The Fascist Republic of Hieroglyphicia, capital Cairo. In 1973, a fascist revolution occurs within Egypt. The fascist revolutionaries call for a new Egyptian empire. As the protests become more and more frequent, the government of Egypt begins suppressing them with violence. This infuriates the fascists, who respond by turning one of their Cairo protests into a full-blown armed revolution. The fascists soon overthrow the government, and the Fascist Republic of Egypt is born. A few months into the start of the fascists' reign, they declare war on Sudan and send troops into northern Sudan. The Egyptians quickly overwhelm the Sudanese and are able to take Khartoum in just under 3 weeks. During the war, South Sudan broke away from Sudan, using the war as an opportunity to gain independence. Fast forward to 1979 and Egypt launches a surprise invasion of South Sudan. After the annexation of both Sudans, the United Nations begin to put strong sanctions into effect against Egypt. These sanctions nearly destroy the economy of Egypt. In some parts of Cairo, a single jar of milk costs over $400. But eventually, after years of sanctions, Egypt adapts and becomes more self-reliant, leading to a massive economic recovery. The now economically stable Egypt begins rebuilding its military on a massive scale. Egypt's neighbors all begin to fear Egypt's growing power. In response to this, the Egyptian Coalition League is formed, consisting of Ethiopia, Djibouti, Israel, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia. Fast forward to 1986, and after a small skirmish on the border of Egypt and Ethiopia, war breaks out between Egypt and the ECL. Egypt's new military turns out to be 1,000 times stronger than anything the ECL could have predicted. And Egypt quickly conquers Ethiopia, Djibouti, Israel, and Jordan. And finally, after a long and costly war on both sides, Egypt is victorious in the siege of Mecca and Saudi Arabia surrenders. Fast forward to 1991 and a new leader is sworn into office. This new leader seeks to build a new identity for the nation and changes the name of the country to Hieroglyphicia. Today, Hieroglyphicia is a hermit kingdom with a very strong military and even a few nukes, but they have very few diplomatic relations with the rest of the outside world. The Oceanic Empire, capital Sydney. In 1901, the British decide against giving Australia its independence, and Australia remains a colony of the British Empire. Fast forward to after World War II, and due to much pressure from the United States and Britain's destroyed economy, the British grant Australia its complete independence. Australia sees the weakened armies of the great powers in Asia as an opportunity and launches a full-scale invasion of Oceania, beginning the Oceanic War. During this point, there really is nothing the great powers of the world can do about it, so many nations just shrug and let Australia continue the invasion. The war lasts for several years and claims thousands of lives. Finally, in 1950, Malaysia surrenders to the Australians, ending the Oceanic War. Fast forward to 1951, and a referendum is held to change the name of the nation. The new name wins by large margins, and Australia changes its name to the Oceanic Empire. Today, the Oceanic Empire has a booming economy and a fairly large military. They have a tense relationship with Malaysia, but get along well with the rest of the world. Arco, capital Lenu City. Okay, so there is one thing I need to say really quick about this nation, is this nation and the next nation, they all take place in the same world. And there's another nation that takes place in the same world. I don't know if you guys remember, but in episode 1 of this show, I covered a country called Finlandia. And these next two nations take place in the same world as that, so if you want to get the full experience and really not be confused, I would recommend going back and rewatching Finlandia and sort of treat these next couple nations as well as Finlandia as one big story. So yeah, let's get into it. Much of Arco's history is unclear, but from what archaeologists have found and from what historians have theorized, Arco was originally settled by humans living in Australia, who immigrated there when there was a land bridge passing through the area. Fast forward to the 1600s and Sweden discovers the area. Sweden quickly begins a mad dash to colonize the island, as other colonial powers begin to discover the island as well, including Spain, England, and Portugal. Due to these events, many wars break out between the empires, devastating the native Arcoian population. Eventually, Sweden's economy crashes, and they abandon Arco. Sweden owned the majority of the land in Arco, so due to so much land being ungoverned, anarchy quickly spreads across all of Arco, ending the reign of the colonial powers. After 2 years of anarchy throughout the island, a group of surviving English colonists discover a failed French colony called Lenu City on the western coast of the island. The English survivors rebuild this small village and establish a government. Quickly, they take in more and more groups of survivors until they have a strong enough ability to reconquer the island. Finally, in 1798, the entire island is unified, and the Republic of Arco is born, although the English are quickly voted out of office in favor of a native Arcoian government. Fast forward to World War II, and Arco sides with the Axis and takes the Philippines and some parts of the Dutch East Indies. After the war, Arco pays billions of dollars in war reparations, feeling terrible for their actions. Today, Arco is very much like Finlandia, but is much less peaceful. Arco has great relations with Finlandia and Australia, but have strong tensions with Centraltian, capital Centralium. Most of Centraltian's history consists of the island being extremely divided, in both political boundaries and culture. The west consisted of a vast jungle, known as the New West Africa Jungle, and was controlled mostly by rich city-states and small but rich empires. The east consisted of extreme mountains and deserts, and was inhabited by thousands of different nomadic tribes, each with their own culture and religion. Fast forward to 1587, and an Arcoian tribe from northern Arco sets off with an army of 13,000 to cross the Arsen Strait. The Arcoian tribe lands at Southport, a fairly large port city in the Kingdom of Zixi, which is one of the many powerful small empires in western Centraltian. The Arcoian tribe sacks the city, killing thousands of citizens along the way. The leaders of many other Centraltian city-states, empires, and tribes see this new threat, and ask the Kingdom of Finlandia to assist them. The Kingdom of Finlandia agrees, and sends 15,000 warriors to assist the Centraltians. But soon, a massive mistake occurs. The general of the Frillian army mistakes a Centraltian tribesman as one of the Arcoians, and orders his troops to slaughter the man. This infuriates the Centraltians, who respond by forming a coalition and declaring war on Finlandia. With the new war being declared, and there being thousands of Frillians in Centraltian to distract the Centraltians, the Arcoian tribe continues their march of sacking and slaughter, all the way to the capital of Zixi. The Arcoians behead the king of Zixi and completely destroy the capital, ending the kingdom of Zixi. The citizens of Centraltian, Arco, and Finlandia see this, and realize what a waste the whole war was, and begin to rebel against their respective governments. At this point, all hell breaks loose, starting a period known as the Bloody Times. There was civil war, revolutions in Centraltian, Arco, and Finlandia. Nobody on the Triplet Islands were spared. Fast forward to the 1600s and Sweden discovers the area. While Sweden is busy setting up their colonies in Finlandia and Arco, the newly independent Tunisia has ambitions on becoming the world's first Muslim colonial empire, and asks Sweden for help setting up new colonies on Centraltian. Sweden sees this as an opportunity to grow a small, insignificant, weak nation into a strong imperial ally, and Sweden helps Tunisia colonize all of Centraltian, during the same time as Sweden was committing their genocides in Finlandia and Arco. Fast forward 50 years later and hundreds more failed Tunisian colonies, and Tunisia gives up its dream of a colonial empire, and gives Centraltian its full independence. Today, Centraltian is a large economic and military power. It has good relations with Sweden and Tunisia, and has a strong rivalry with Arco and China. It is also one of the only nations in the world that officially recognizes Taiwanese independence. The Baja Republic, capital Baja City. One thing I want to say about this nation real quick, even though it is made by the same person and has a very similar beginning as the previous nations, it has no coalition with them, so I just want you guys to know that doesn't take place in the same world, so let's go into it. In the mid-1500s, Sweden discovers the Baja region of North America, and begins setting up colonies at a rapid pace. Fast forward to the mid-1700s, and Sweden undergoes a massive financial crash, forcing them to let go of all of their colonies, including Baja. The newly established Baja Republic begins investing heavily in business, infrastructure, and the military. Fast forward to the mid-1800s, and Baja sees the Mexican-American War as an opportunity to expand, and joins the war on the side of the United States. With the help of Baja, the United States is able to march all the way to Mexico City and overthrow the government. The Treaty of Los Angeles is then put into place. The treaty states that Mexico shall hand over large amounts of land to the United States and the Baja Republic, while also paying millions in war reparations. Today, the Baja Republic is extremely populous, has a large military, and the third largest economy in North America. Tonio, capital the Surts. In the mid-1970s, a small community of 3 cities and many small towns and villages on the border between Italy and Switzerland decide to unite and secede from Italy, due to many cultural differences in the region. They hold a referendum for independence, and 78% of the population votes to secede, and the nation of Tonio is born. Soon after seceding, a massive earthquake in the region devastates Antonio Alta Zerapis, the capital of Tonio. The earthquake covers 90% of the capital with snow from the Alps, while killing hundreds and injuring hundreds more. After this, Tonio moves its capital to the Surts, a much safer place to place the capital. During the Cold War, Tonio, as well as many other small nations throughout Europe, begin to fear the rise of larger nations. In response to this, the International Confederation of Small States, or the ICSS, is created. The alliance consists of Tonio, Malta, Liechtenstein, Luxembourg, Andorra, Monaco, San Marino, and Vatican City. The combined forces of the ICSS proves to be a force to be reckoned with, and the ICSS becomes a strong power player in the Cold War. Today, Tonio has a booming economy and population. They are also known as one of the most generous nations in the world, giving billions in foreign aid each year.